Part 54. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 540. Lu Feng nodded again and again and didn't say much. As the food came, Lu Feng held up his wine glass. With Sister Yu around, the scene wasn't very embarrassing. While Mr. Zhao was eating, he asked Lu Feng something like a leader asking his subordinates, and Lu Feng also answered with a well-behaved look. BeautifulFemale Electronics, have you been in the limelight recently? Mr. Zhao asked. It's a little famous among private enterprises in the south, but in front of you, it's nothing, Lu Feng replied cautiously. He knew that a person like Mr. Zhao wanted his status. Especially when Sister Yu is here, if Lu Feng dares to contradict him, or talk to him as an equal, he will never help, facing a handsome, younger, and more expensive man than himself. President Zhao wanted to show his strength in front of his woman. During a meal, Lu Feng acted cautiously throughout the entire meal, as if he didn't dare to take a breath. Mr. Zhao was very happy, and said to Lu Feng, Mr. Mu was here recently. I mentioned you. I will set up a game tomorrow and call Mr. Mu and Mr. Tang over. As for the account, it's a trivial matter. Don't mention the 3 million thing, you know. I understand, Lu Feng nodded in agreement. After eating for more than an hour, I drank half of a bottle of Maotai, most of which was drunk by Lu Feng. Mr. Zhao stood up and said, Little Lu, you work hard, a man must have a big heart, and 18 million will become. What kind of climate can this look like? Yes, what you taught is, thank you Sister Yu, thank you Mr. Zhao, Lu Feng said a little cautiously. This account will be taken directly to us at that time. We will take 20 million yuan of goods from Beigong and transfer the account to Shenfei. More than 20 million yuan is a small problem for state-owned enterprises. To you. For our private enterprises, it would be life-threatening, Lu Feng boasted. The three of them walked out, and when they got to the door, Mr. Zhao gave another lecture. Lu Feng stood there and listened, complimenting from time to time, until he got into the car. Lu Feng looked at the car that was going away, and the smile on his face disappeared. Sister Yu was in the car and secretly remembered the words BeautifulFemale Electronics. She was just curious, how big a factory can Lu Feng open at his age? President Zhao glanced aside slightly and asked, what are you thinking about? It's nothing, Sister Yu returned to the divine way. Let me tell you, private enterprises are trails after all, and they can't compare to state-owned enterprises at any time. Look at his fearful appearance, he's timid, and he won't see much in this life, President Zhao belittled Lu Feng. Then how can I compare with you, Sister Yu boasted. Mr. Zhao still has something to do. He sent Sister Yu back to Xiaoyang building and went back. When Sister Yu came home, she first called her little sister and asked her if she knew BeautifulFemale Electronics. Her little sister can only eat, drink, and have fun. How can she know anything about electronics? Sister Yu, what are you doing with your heart? Did you see that little white face? The girl on the other end of the phone smiled and said, but that little white face is really tasteful, not really handsome, but that charming temperament is not ordinary. People have that kind of feeling on a woman, that's saucy. I'm just asking, what are you talking about? His business is in the south. Do you have any friends in the south? Sister Yu asked. You're just fascinated. Mr. Zhao is so good, powerful, they all say that the hero is sad for the beauty pass, and you can't pass the beauty man pass. I guess it is a small boss who runs a factory, and he always has a hard job with Zhao, and like this, my little boss, eat meat today, maybe you won't even be able to drink soup tomorrow. One of my older brothers is in the south, so I'll ask you. The woman hung up the phone, lit a cigarette, wearing thin pajamas, and gave her to the family. A cousin called. Hey, it's me, Huan, what are you doing? The woman asked. I've just had a meeting, what's the matter? Didn't you open a factory in the south? Ask you about a company, does BeautifulFemale Electronics know? The woman asked casually. GFN Electronics, the man on the other end of the phone wondered, I know, why are you asking this? You actually know that the boss of this company is here, entrusting Sister You to do things, and Sister You seems to be fascinated by it? Like, want to find out how big the factory is, the woman said and took a puff of cigarette. Mr. Lu has gone to Shenyang, the man on the other end of the phone called out. He asked, when did you go? Where are you now? I can go back in time, too late. Why are you excited, what are you doing here? Please invite President Lu to dinner, you don't know GFN Electronics, Road. Where can I go to know about such small companies? I don't read newspapers, and besides, companies in the south, we don't talk about GATA. GFN Electronics, that is GFN Electronics, the god of the industry. In 2 years, I have used my own strength to fight against the entire industry, whether it's a one-on-one fight or a group fight, I won't fall behind. Stop, don't act like you've beaten chicken blood, I don't understand this, so how much money does he have? The woman asked very directly. How much? GFN Electronics is not listed and will not release financial reports, but in one day, he sells one VCD for 100 million. 100 million. Of course, this is the sales volume. What is the specific profit? I don't know. How does she know what is sales, what is running water, what is profit, and now there is only one number left in her mind, 100 million a day. After hanging up, the woman called Sister You. Did you ask? Yes, my brother said that his company makes 100 million a day, the woman said blankly. 100 million, Sister You was shocked, this number is a shocking number to the richest person. After thinking about it, it's not right. If you earn 100 million a day, will you care about this 20 million? Isn't it? Sister You expressed her doubts in her heart, and called her cousin on the other side to confirm several times. GFN Electronics is a large private enterprise. As for why he came to ask for this money, he also I don't know, because Mr. Lu's work has always been beyond the reach of mortals. When Lu Feng returned to the hotel, what happened in front of him, if nothing else happened, was basically stable. Zhu Lidong called to inquire about the bill. Lu Feng told him that the money was coming soon, so he should keep this in mind in the future. Be sure to pay both. Zhu Lidong hung up the phone and could only sigh, Brother Feng is still your brother Feng. I call Zhang Fengxia and Wei Yandan respectively. The sales of VCDs have peaked, and pirated copies have begun to appear again in small quantities. Fortunately, the market expansion speed has increased again, and the advertising bombardment has begun to take effect. Many electronics companies have succumbed to VCDs and began to look for supplements in other areas. Some people found that Golden Leopard bought VCDs as a gift of colored discs, and began to report to market supervision. This kind of thing is to turn a blind eye. The supervisors go there and take away several discs. There is no big storm, but in the industry, Lu Feng's reputation has been greatly affected. A group of people joked. I heard that at various banquets, a few bosses ridiculed Lu Feng as a brother Pian in the electronics industry and called Zhang Fengxia a sister Pian, which annoyed Zhang Fengxia, and stood there and pointed at those people. Don't attend some useless banquets. It's pointless to talk to these defeated generals. Don't be angry. Lu Feng comforted a few words. At present, the market share of the Golden Leopard is estimated to have fallen below 90%. Lu Feng's expectation is that as long as the Golden Leopard stabilizes its market share of about 50%, it will be very powerful. The previous companies suffered huge losses, but they would still do it. As long as they made money, they would definitely make a comeback. After chatting on the phone for more than an hour, Lu Feng just hung up when the phone rang and answered, Who is it? Mr. Lu, it's me, your sister Yu. On the other end of the phone, Sister Yu complained, You are so busy on the phone. Ah, the line has been busy. Call the company. What's wrong with Sister Yu? Lu Feng asked. I can't call you if I'm okay. Lu Feng felt that something was wrong, there was something wrong in his words, and he said, the two of us are in contact too often. It's appropriate, President Zhao thinks more. What are you thinking about? President Zhao and I are actually related to brother and sister. Good guy, we are both brothers and sisters, so don't you think about it. This brother and sister did a good job. I hope Sister Yu will pay more attention to the matter over there. It's really a great luck to meet you, Lu Feng said politely. Are you free at night? Go out and sing a song. Mr. Zhao is going too. If he doesn't go, just the two of us. It's not very convenient for me. I have to call my wife later. Zhang Xiaoyan brought it up. Such a big man, is he afraid of his wife? How old are you? I feel like I'm a few years older than you. Would you like me to be a good sister? Sister Yu said with a smile. I can't explain it to my parents, Dad, I have something to do right now. I'll call you later. Lu Feng said he had something to do, and hung up the phone after a few polite words. He breathed a sigh of relief. He would never dare to provoke a woman like Sister Yu. This kind of woman was really useless except for eating, drinking, and having fun. In the evening, at a wine party, Mr. Tang was sitting on the main seat, next to a man in his 50s, with slightly longer hair and a little fatter figure, wearing a loose black suit. Mr. Zhao sat there cautiously, picked up a glass of wine, and said, Mr. Mu, didn't you say that you are interested in Lu Feng from GFN Electronics? I have really come into contact with him, and I am here now. Mr. Mu, he raised his head, there was surprise in his eyes, and asked, really? Then call him, this young man is quite individual, dare to fight and fight. I have an appointment tomorrow, and he will meet him at that time. Come. Mr. Tang glanced at Mr. Zhao and asked, when did he come? He came to Beigong some time ago to ask for the account, Mr. Zhao replied. Mr. Tang suddenly remembered that he seemed to have received such a call, but he didn't take it too seriously. I don't know how many people call him every day. Mr. Mu cleared his throat and said, the development of Manzuli requires a group of enthusiastic entrepreneurs. In 1993, the development of the Manzuli project shocked the world. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 541. The fastest update to return to the latest chapter of 1990. In the evening of the next day, a flickering dinner of the century officially kicked off. In fact, Lu Feng didn't really want to see him, and he knew a lot about him. Many people think that he is a genius, and he has done all kinds of big things. In his previous life, he has been in prison many times. He has established not 100 companies, but also 50 companies, and they all went bankrupt without exception. In the late 1980s, by chance, he inquired about a country that was selling planes to the outside world. He didn't have a penny in his pocket, so he began to think about whether to buy planes across the country, or jumbo jets. Compared with others, Lu Feng's self-made is really not a big deal. The first pot of gold is to swindle 500 trains of goods across the country in exchange for a plane. This transaction made him $1 million. Such a transaction shocked at home and abroad, and became a god in one fell swoop. Then satellite plans began to appear. You read that right. In the 1990s, private companies launched satellites into outer space, and it was a complete success. Musk played, and everyone else played the rest. Next is the current development of Manzuli. The so-called development of Manzuli is to blow up the Himalayas and directly push them flat, so that the tropical rainy monsoon on the side of Assam can blow over smoothly. As soon as the tropical monsoon blows, the climate of the entire north will change, from the cold north to the warm and humid tropical rainforest. At the same time, trains can be directly connected to Eurasia. The plan is to directly negotiate with Southeast Asian countries to reorganize Southeast Asian countries. The situation, on the global front, is to cease shipping in the Strait of Malacca. Southeast Asia has achieved faster and closer economic ties. Their companies have developed in terms of navigation and land transportation. They have estimated the annual trade volume and charged for services. At the same time, the north becomes a tropical climate, the land will be more fertile, the food will usher in a bumper harvest, and a well-off life will be realized earlier. Lu Feng heard this crazy plan for the first time in a business class in his last life. He was stunned there. It was too grand. The power to change the earth with a wave of his hand was beyond shocking. It was such a crazy plan, and it was just launched. It can be seen that the current business people are absolutely daring to work hard. Lu Feng arrived at the place ahead of schedule. This year should be the year when the Manzuli plan was officially implemented, and funds were being raised. Lu Feng guessed that this was also the reason why Mr. Mu wanted to find himself. Mr. Zhao was the first to arrive. On today's occasion, he could only be regarded as a supporting role. When he saw Lu Feng, he walked over and said, "Mr. Lu, I have already reported your matter to the top, it's just a small problem. I don't see that you are young and the company is doing quite well. It's not a big deal, it's just a small fight." Lu Feng smiled. Compared with yesterday's, Mr. Zhao's attitude was a 180-degree turn. You should have a preliminary understanding of GFN electronics, but Lu Feng doesn't care about these things. With the money back, Lu Feng's chances of dealing with them in his life are almost zero. 10 minutes later, Mr. Tang and Mr. Mu walked in chatting and laughing, followed by 7 or 8 people, looking full of aura, and other people in the hotel lobby avoided seeing it. "Let me introduce, this is President Lu of GFN Electronics, Lu Feng," President Zhao introduced. "Hello," I called who I thought before Mr. Tang held out his hand. "It's normal for you to be busy." Lu Feng shook hands. "You must also know that Mr. Mu, who is well known in the hearts of private entrepreneurs, has made a lot of efforts in introducing jet airliners," Mr. Zhao introduced. Mr. Mu held Lu Feng's hand, looked up and down, and said with a hint of Trump in his mouth, "The boy is very good, I have heard of you." "Thank you for the praise, Mr. Mu, it's just a small fight," Lu Feng said politely. "Let's go to the private room." Everyone chatted and laughed and entered the private room. The food had already been ordered. Sitting down was nothing more than chatting and asking about some corporate development. President Mu introduced his projects. Feng Xiao sat beside him and listened for 10 minutes, and was stunned. He always thought that Lu Feng was crazy, but what Mr. Mao was doing in front of him made Lu Feng seem so unremarkable. This project is fully supported by the state. As long as the project is completed, we will achieve a well-off society ahead of schedule. The reason for the lack of food in our country is that the land in the north cannot be planted in winter. Once the north becomes a water town in the south of the Yangtze River, increase trade with the world. Think about it. Although the project is full of loopholes and many unsolvable difficulties, as long as you blow it big enough, it is shocking enough, and your identity and social status are higher than the other parties, and the other party's mind is blank in an instant, and you have the right to speak. What is what? Lu Feng could only nod his head. In comparison, Lu Feng felt that President Mao was more like a rebirth. "My main purpose this time is to ask for the bill," Lu Feng looked at Mr. Tang and said, "This bill makes me feel uncomfortable. It's all trivial matters. 20,000 to 10,000 is a trivial matter for you. You can transfer the account to us here, and you can cash it out." Mr. Mu waved his hand, and everything was not a problem. "There are a lot of people who want to invest in this project. I've been following you. You are a dreadful young man. You don't need to invest more. Come over with 3 billion. The specific equity will be discussed later. Back when I bought a plane. A lot of people don't believe me, they are shouting that this person is a liar. However, the people who invested in me at that time all made money. Lu Feng nodded again and again. As long as you are crazy enough, no one can tell whether you are really crazy or fake. I need to go back and discuss such a big investment project. Lu Feng smiled awkwardly. 3 billion? GFN Electronics is sold, and it is not necessarily worth 3 billion now. After eating a meal for 2 hours, Feng Xiao was so shocked that he was speechless. He even had the urge to invest, because once this happened, he would not finish it for several lifetimes. And Mr. Mu has been successful twice before, what if this time he also succeeded? Lu Feng only dealt with the affairs in Manzuli, and the main point was the account. After leaving the hotel, Mr. Mu said to Lu Feng, "For you, this is an opportunity, you can go back and do a good job, it will benefit the country and the people." "I will," Lu Feng was extremely sincere. "Then I'll go first. There will be a meeting in the province tomorrow. We have united several provinces and reached an agreement within many frameworks. It may be a little busy recently." Mr. Mu got into the car after a few polite words and walked away. After sending Mr. Tang away, Mr. Zhao looked at Lu Feng and said, "Bring that account over tomorrow, sign an agreement, and then we will buy the goods from Beigong, and the rest has nothing to do with you. The agreement sign as soon as possible, the process is a bit troublesome." "No problem, I'll be there tomorrow morning." "Okay." President Zhao patted Lu Feng's shoulder slightly and said, "Young man, work hard and seize the opportunity." After Mr. Zhao left, Feng Xiao couldn't help but say, "Brother Feng, do you want to invest?" Lu Feng knew he was being fooled by his appearance, and said angrily, "I'll invest with a hammer? 3 billion, do you think 300,000? I think it is feasible. That Mr. Mu is not an ordinary person. If this happens, it will definitely be century investment." Feng Xiao thought seriously. He said he would blow up the Himalayas. "I don't think it is necessary. It would be great to install an elevator directly on the Himalayas and charge the elevator fee." Lu Feng said earnestly to Feng Xiao, "You have to understand one thing. You can do as many things as your backer is. Once you exceed your own ability, or rely on the ability of a character, the final result is that it is broken down by reality. The reason why many poor people are always poor is because they dare not think about it. Dare to do it, many rich people become poor because of the humming, too daring to think, too daring to do it, understand?" "Brother Feng, do you think it's unreliable?" Feng Xiao pondered what Mr. Mu said just now, and made a preliminary estimate that 30 to 5 billion yuan would be enough to dig a tens of kilometers wide hole in the low part of the Himalayas. "You call your father and let him vote. If he invests, I will also make a project to lay tiles on the Great Wall." After Lu Feng finished speaking, he walked towards the car. No one is a fool. The project to develop Manzuli has certain feasibility. In terms of climate, shipping, and agriculture, it has great advantages. In comparison, the investment of tens of billions is really too cheap and cost-effective. The next day, Mr. Mu started to mention Lu Feng, a new generation entrepreneur and founder of GFN Electronics, at various meetings. He was optimistic about the project, and was already investigating and preparing to invest. In business matters, no one knows who is using it. Anyway, Lu Feng's progress in the accounts is extremely smooth. The originally long process was completed in just 2 days. At the same time, Hong Kong stocks began to change. Recently, Chen's capital stocks were bought in large quantities, and the stocks were once pulled up. Many people found that there was already a retail investor who bought 20 million shares during this period, accounting for nearly 100% of the shares. Of 4. The market just opened today, and there were more capital outflows from the broader market. The share price of Chen's capital fell by 9%, and it went down all the way. Later, another single account purchased 2 million shares, and it is still trading. Many people have already felt that something is wrong. Generally speaking, the stock prices of financial companies are relatively stable, most of them are held by institutions, and many retail investors buy a lot, but it is not right to buy so much from a single account. Especially some time ago, a single account has been close to raising cards, and suddenly stopped buying. People from Chen's Capital also noticed this problem, and then carried out a stock repurchase. Within 30 minutes, the stock was directly raised, with the daily limit approaching 1 percentage point. Capital stock hands-on with some people, retaining legal power. In the next period of time, there will be a repurchase to support the market, so that the stock value of Chen's Capital will return to a suitable point, so as not to be maliciously controlled by others. Su Yorong looked at the stock transaction. Her face was a little unsightly, the money in her hand was a bit unbearable. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 542. The fastest update to return to the latest chapter of 1990. Chen's Capital is being targeted. People in the industry understand this matter, but they just don't know who that person is. President Chen is also talking about this matter in the meeting these 2 days. To manage and control risks, she is afraid of other shareholders doing this sort of thing takes control of her away. 3 days passed in a blink of an eye, and Mr. Hao was already a little impatient waiting. He didn't see Lu Feng's return money, and he took a lot of it himself. He called Lu Feng over and over again to urge him. Today, he couldn't wait any longer, so he ran to the hotel to block Lu Feng. Yesterday, Shenfei had already transferred Lu Feng's account, and it is estimated that 18 million will be transferred to Jiafeng Electronics Company account today. After waking up, Lu Feng simply packed up and left as soon as the money arrived. Bang bang bang. The knock on the door was a little hurried, and I could tell that the person knocking on the door was not in a good mood. Lu Feng walked over to open the door and asked, "Who is it? Is there such a knock on the door?" Opening the door, Mr. Hao stared at Lu Feng and asked straight to the point, "Where's the money? It's been almost a week. What about the money?" At this point, Lu Feng didn't need to coax him to play. He said, "The board of directors didn't pass it, so I'm ready to go back." Lu Feng is going back. Mr. Hao's heart rushed up. Isn't this a joke? Have you been fooled by a stunned youth? Are you humming playing with me? I ran around for you. It's money, and it's looking for someone. You're telling me this now? Mr. Hao glared angrily and stretched out his hand to pull Lu Feng's clothes. Lu Feng hurriedly took a step back. Just talk, don't do anything. Lu Feng stared at him and said. You don't want that account, right? Mr. Hao said gloomily. I want it, but you don't give it. Lu Feng said helplessly. I don't have 5 million, you open your mouth, buddy. Shut up, buddy. You insist on taking another 5 million from me. I will give you 500 won, you still don't pay back the money. What can I do? You really can't figure it out? I'm warning you now, if you want the 18 million, give it to me obediently, or you will be charged, and you won't be able to get a penny. Mr. Hao entered the room. Sitting on the sofa, he spoke arrogantly. Look at your attitude. If I give you 5 million, you still have this attitude. What should I do? Lu Feng spread his hands, with a helpless expression. That's my attitude. I'll tell you, if you take 5 million, you can still get the money back, otherwise the money will be wasted. I can't get the money, but I have the ability to make you also. I can't get it. Mr. Hao held the cigarette with 2 fingers, and Lu Feng shouted with his fingers, I will ask you one question, do you want the money? Definitely want it. Lu Feng leaned against the wall by the door, folded his arms on his chest and looked at him. If you want to be obedient, I think you are young and have already treated you very well. Do you know that there are a lot of people who want to pay? After they come, they kneel on the ground and beg for repayment. If 5 million is difficult, you will take 100 first. Wan come here Hao gave a death order and shouted, today, 1 million will be credited. Then you pay back the money. I'll give you 1 million. The more you owe, Lu Feng said. Why are you talking so much? Do you want the money for your talk? Yes, I've said it several times. If you want money, don't talk so much. Pay attention to your tone of voice and attitude. I tell you, as long as I call Mr. Xiao, your money will be forfeited. Also, give me the money first. Come back, 200,000 yuan, not a penny. Mr. Hao completely stopped pretending. 200,000. Just a few trips to karaoke, so much money, Lu Feng called out. There must be no interest. Lu Feng was amused by his arrogance and said with a smile, you're still black. Who are you talking about? Mr. Hao threw the cigarette butt on the ground and said, if you don't give me my money, don't think about being safe today. This is not a threat to you, I am talking to you kindly, it is to give you enough face, my patience has run out. Seeing Lu Feng standing still smiling, Mr. Hao didn't feel too much in his heart. Logically speaking, the people who wanted the bill at the moment were already panicking, and some even started to cry bitterly, kneeling on the ground and hugging him, like begging for mercy. Feng Xiao heard the movement here and ran over and stood at the door watching. Now that the matter is over, Lu Feng doesn't need to continue playing with him. He said, I have already changed hands on that account. If you want to cancel the account, you can cancel it. It doesn't matter to me. You changed hands? Okay, I didn't see it. You were stupid, and you even played with me. Hao looked gloomy and shouted, I tell you, no matter who you transfer to, the money is gone. Just as Lu Feng was about to speak, the phone on the table rang. He stepped forward to pick up the phone and said, I'm Lu Feng. Mr. Lu, the money has already been credited to your company account, you can check it, Mr. Zhao said on the other end of the phone. Okay, thank you for your hard work, Lu Feng said politely, looked at Mr. Hao next to him, and said, it's more, Mr. Zhao, someone said that the money will be billed to you, do you agree? Who wants to deduct the bill? Someone from Beigong. The other end of the phone was a little annoyed. Isn't this bullying him? If the money is debited, it's all Boss Zhao's responsibility. Tell him. Lu Feng handed the phone to Mr. Hao and said, aren't you amazing? If you want to set off the bill, tell him. Hey, Mr. Hao answered the phone and said directly, I'm asking someone for the bill, right? Let me tell you, you won't get a penny of the money. If you don't believe me, let's try it. Which leader of Beigong is you? Mr. Zhao asked. I'm the humming general manager of Beigong Real Estate. You just tell me where you are, you want to pay for someone, and you want to get me on your head. Tell you, don't care how awesome you are, this account can be made by anyone. It's not easy to use, understand? Mr. Hao slapped the table with his hand and shouted, this is a humming state-owned enterprise, you thought it was a private enterprise, and you used that trick to scare me. Where are you? Who is the boss? I'm from Shenfei. Go back and tell your bosses that the money was used to buy aircraft steel. If you want to write off the bill, you can take the responsibility for any problems with the delivery time of the aircraft, Mr. Zhao said indifferently. Shenfei's. Mr. Hao's face changed drastically. It was no longer his decision. Even the leaders of Beigong didn't dare to delay. He thought that Lu Feng had transferred the account to the account collectors in the society. At most, the opponent has a stick in his hand. Unexpectedly, they have a fighter. Mr. Zhao hung up the phone and sat there a little bit slow. He looked at Lu Feng for a while and said, you know Shenfei's leader? Why didn't you tell me earlier? I also met after I came here. Lu Feng bent down, smiled at Mr. Hao, and asked, these people are urging the bills, should you be quicker? Mr. Hao showed a smile that was uglier than crying. The matter was out of his control, and he said to Lu Feng, That's it? Give me the money you owe me, okay. Mr. Hao, if you are like this, I also have the priority of the account. I have to pay back 200 million yuan to the bank in June. I owe you 200,000 yuan now. If you give me another 200 million yuan, I will definitely pay it back first. Yours. Lu Feng grinned, looking a bit cheap. Mr. Lu, don't play with me. It's not easy for me to make money. I have put in tens of thousands of dollars in the past few days. There are old people and young people. This money is very important to me. Give it back to me, Mr. Hao said with a sad face. Don't be like this, it's a bit of a backbone to ask for the account. Mr. Hao saw that Lu Feng was already packing his suitcase. If he left, the money would be lost. He hugged Lu Feng's thigh and said, if you don't pay back the money, I will live here. I'm not leaving, I'll be with you wherever you go. If I don't repay the money, are you going to find a few people to clean me up? Lu Feng squeezed his hand and said, President Hao, let it go. I can't explain to President Xiao, He wanted to die right now. During the whole day, where Lu Feng went, where did he follow, those who owed money became those who wanted it, and the money was extremely sad. During dinner in the evening, Mr. Hao sat next to him and stared at Lu Feng with his eyes. I'm afraid of you. Lu Feng didn't want him to follow, mainly because there were a lot of business exchanges around him, and it was difficult for outsiders to hear. You want money, right? I'll give you 20,000 yuan, but that's the only amount. If you don't agree, you won't have a cent for the consumption in karaoke, you sing the song, you hug the girl, and you eat the fruit plate. The most. Lu Feng stared at him and said, I hope this matter will give you a long memory. It's not comfortable to ask for the account, it's arrogant. Mr. Hao nodded. At this moment, what Lu Feng said was what he said. Even if he was referring to a deer as a horse, Mr. Hao had to cooperate with him. 20,000 yuan, it's over. Lu Feng took his bag, took out 20,000 yuan, slapped it on the table, and said, stop staring at me for dinner, let's go. Mr. Hao took the money, turned his head and left. What he is most worried about now is how to explain to Mr. Xiao. In the past few days, Sister Yu has been pestering Lu Feng a lot. She even came to the hotel several times to find her, but Lu Feng avoided them. She also felt that people were really not interested in her. She is also content. If people don't get it, the money is enough. 3 million is enough for her to live happily for a lifetime. After placing the order, the reconciliation started immediately. When Mr. Xiao of Beigong got the bill, he was dumbfounded. When did it become 21 million? The first time I called Mr. Zhao, he said that there were 3 million fake accounts, and GFN Electronics only had 18 million accounts. Mr. Zhao was stunned when he received the call. After 11 o'clock in the evening, Lu Feng's suitcases were already packed. Feng Xiao dragged his things and stood at the door waiting. Why do you want to change hotels in the evening for the flight tomorrow morning? For safety, Lu Feng closed the suitcase and prepared to leave. The phone rang, and Lu Feng picked it up and said, who is it? Mr. Lu, you are making fake accounts. President Zhao gritted his teeth and said, you are in Beigong, and you only have an account of 18 million. Yes, you also gave me 18 million, not much, not much, what's wrong? Lu Feng's voice was full of reason. You don't let me eat meat, do you? Mr. Zhao, your location is very sensitive. 3 million is not a small number. I'm also doing it for your own good. That's all I've said. If you have any questions, you can contact me through my GFN Electronics company. Bye. Lu Feng hung up the phone and said to Feng Xiao, come on. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 543. The fastest update to return to the latest chapter of 1990. Mr. Zhao slammed the table angrily and played with his heart all his life. but he was tricked by someone? If it is an affiliated company and there is cooperation, he can play Lu Feng to death, but electronics and military industry will never be on the same page in this life. Mr. Zhao couldn't hold his breath, and was tricked by a young man. He picked up the phone and told his subordinates to go to the hotel and block Lu Feng. Sister Yu was so excited that she couldn't sleep. She knew that she would settle with Beigong tonight. After the settlement, she would go through the process. If it is short, it will be paid in a week, and if it is long, it will take 3 to 5 months. But this is already a duck to the mouth, tossing and turning, can't fall asleep, so he still called Mr. Zhao. How is it? Sister Yu's voice trembled a little. Don't mention it, Hamid, I was tricked. Mr. Zhao briefly explained the matter. What's the matter? Sister Yu seemed to be struck by lightning, her mind went blank. The young man looked so innocent, how could he have so many hearts? I've already asked someone to block him, but he can design so much, I'm afraid he has already run away. Go to the south to find him. Sister Yu was furious. She originally thought it was a simple and cute little puppy, but she tore off the mask, revealing a face of her ha. Who the hum can take this? When Mr. Zhao heard this, he could only sigh helplessly, and went to the south. That is the territory of others, what can he do to them? I can only admit it. Fortunately, there is no problem with the 18 million account, otherwise there will be a big problem, and Mr. Zhao is definitely the one who can't eat and walk around. Lu Feng changed to a hotel close to the airport, and went straight to sleep after checking in. The next morning, I boarded a plane and flew to Suzhou. At the end of April, the weather in the south was over 20 degrees. The little girls on the street wore skirts, and people basically wore short sleeves. When Lu Feng left the airport, he felt a little hot and took off his jacket in the car. Roll up your sleeves to cool off. Some time ago, production was almost stopped, and the people at the entrance of the factory were also lazy. This time, the security guards stood at the door, and the whole factory was full of upward vitality. Does a business have money? Whether there is development or not, in fact, it is good to look at the mental state of the employees. If the employees of this company are like chicken blood, you don't need to ask to know that the development is very good, the profits are very large, and the wages are very high. Lu Feng got out of the car, and people passing by greeted each other. Lu Feng responded with a few words and walked upstairs. He was sweating all over his body. He took a shower and changed into summer clothes, which made him feel much more comfortable. The office door was pushed open. Zhang Fengxia stuck her head in, and said overjoyed, "You're back. Can't you be like a second fool?" Lying at the door, Lu Feng glanced at her and asked. Zhang Fengxia put on a professional skirt, walked in with high heels, and said, "The money has already arrived, but you are still very good. President Zhu has run several times and can't figure it out. You will cause trouble for me, and leave all the messes that I don't understand to me." Lu Feng picked up a folder and glanced at it, not wanting to deal with it. "I haven't caused you any trouble. The recent development has been good, and I have felt a lot more relaxed. I went to Shenzhen a few days ago and stayed with Sister Xiao Yan for a few days," Zhang Fengxia said with a bright face. "It's okay to live with my wife while I'm away. I'm just sneaking around." Zhang Fengxia was talking when someone knocked on the door. Lu Feng raised his head and said a word to come in. Wei Yandan pushed open the door and walked in. "Are you there?" Lu Feng was a little surprised to see her. Just in time, she seemed to have something to do. She glanced at Zhang Fengxia and said to Lu Feng, "Mr. Lu, I have something to tell you, I'm in a hurry." Zhang Fengxia looked a little unhappy, glanced at Lu Feng, and said, "Am I inconvenient?" "I'll find you later," Lu Feng said. "Is there anything I can't know about the company?" Zhang Fengxia instantly felt a little wronged. "What's the matter? Wei Yandan can know, but she can't." "Don't think too much, it's about the entertainment industry. Lu Feng waved at her and motioned her to go out. Zhang Fengxia stood up and stared at the woman she personally supported. She felt a little regretful in her heart. She strode to the door and closed the door. What's the matter? Lu Feng wondered. Mr. Su from Xiangjiang called. She called you last night, but no one answered. Someone behind said that you have left the hotel. Wei Yandan sat down and said, she said that the stock of Chen's capital started to start. Companies have bought back, which has stretched the value of the stock up. She bought a relatively small share with the money in her hand. After she mortgaged it to the bank, the mortgaged funds became less, and the cash out was not much. The stock rose again, and the leverage could no longer be leveraged. Lu Feng frowned and asked, how much did she say she has moved now? The stock in her hand is now worth more than 200 million. With more than 20 times leverage, 10 million can leverage so much. It's not easy. Lu Feng asked, I didn't say, how long is the bank's mortgage term and how high is the interest rate? She said it was 5 months, and the interest was not low, but she didn't say how much. She wanted to invest more money from Chen's capital to cash out in the company we set up. As a result, Mr. Chen had already begun to doubt everyone. She didn't dare to. Said, if she can't continue to move, she will be completely finished in 5 months. Wei Yandan repeated, she said that you two are on the same boat, and I hope you can help her. Let me contact her. How is the media company doing? Lu Feng asked. Now is the era of lack of entertainment, this aspect is still relatively easy to do. The biggest cost of entertainment companies is the cultivation of artists, and Lu Feng directly introduces stars from Xiangjiang and takes a cut from it, which can be said to be a steady profit. In just a few months, all the capital invested in the early stage has been recovered, and a lot of stars who have given platforms and endorsements to the company have also gained a lot. Lu Feng told Wei Yandan that the media company should slowly expand its influence and develop towards private media, and she would make these plans. The two chatted for more than an hour. After Wei Yandan left, Lu Feng sat there and thought about it. Su Yurong couldn't handle it as he expected. Such a big company cannot be leveraged with high leverage. Although Chen's capital has the same shares and the same rights, there are many people who support President Chen internally. If you want to control such a company, you need not only external attacks, but also internal turmoil. Lu Feng thought about it for a while, then picked up the phone and called Su Yurong, who picked up the phone and said, I'm Su Yurong, investment manager of Chen's capital. Who are you? It's me, Lu Feng. Su Yurong was stunned for a moment, then looked out the door, stood up and closed the door, picked up the phone and whispered, where have you been these 24 hours? The pager isn't returning. The pager has long been out of power. President Wei has already told me that anyway. You have 5 months, and I am relatively short of funds. It is the end of April, and it should be in June. I should be able to help you. Are you kidding me? Let me wait 2 months. I'm telling you, if you can't repay the bank loan in 5 months, the bank will sell the stock in one go, and I'll take on a huge debt, and everything will be gone by then. Obviously, if I can't live, don't you either, Su Yurong whispered. Don't live or die at every turn. 5 months, what's the hurry? Don't think too much, it's good for me when you're on top. I'll let go of my hands here, I'll definitely help you, take advantage of this time. You need more money from President Chen. Lu Feng gave her some advice. She is suspicious of everyone now. I mentioned it to her last time, but she was rejected. I haven't dared to mention it since then. Now I go to work every day to make myself look useful to her. You serve well at night, just rely on your 3-inch tongue. Are you disgusting? She's already tired of me, so she just said so much. I'm still saying that, we two are grasshoppers on the same rope. Even if I carry huge debts, I will let you in because of investment fraud. Squat down, hang up. Su Yurong finished and hung up the phone. Ordinary women would have long since collapsed when faced with such a situation, but for Su Yorong, her ability to withstand pressure is not something that ordinary people can spy on. She cursed Lu Feng in her heart. It was obvious that Lu Feng was messing with her, but she had no choice. She could only rely on this person. There were too few conditions for her to trade, even less than when she first started working in a factory, when she was at least young. Putting aside the things in her heart, Su Yorong began to work hard. She needs to work hard to become a person who can be used by others. Being able to be used by others is a matter of value in itself. She understands. Lu Feng put down the phone and thought about it while sitting in his seat. The finance over there in Xiangjiang is a circle, and it is not something he can spy on by an outsider. If I didn't help Su Yorong in the first place, I wanted to beat her first, and then I wanted to wait. Lu Feng stood up and walked out of the office. He asked the office next to him, "Have you seen Feng Xiao? It's the kid who is following me. Looks like it's going to finance." Lu Feng walked towards the finance department and entered the office. Feng Xiao sat there, flipped through the accounts, and asked a vice president about the company's profitability. "What about the major shareholder audit?" Lu Feng stepped forward and teased. "I just came to see, Brother Feng, it's definitely profitable this year. VCD is really making money," Feng Xiao said happily. "Sure, by the way, have you contacted your dad recently?" Lu Feng asked casually, leaning on the table halfway. "I got in touch. I didn't go out that day, I just called him." "What did you say?" "Let's talk about some family affairs." "It's nothing." "You've also learned to be sloppy with me." Lu Feng smiled and asked, "Did your dad say anything about Chen's capital?" Feng Xiao raised his head and stared at Lu Feng, wondering why he suddenly asked this, thought for a moment, and said, "I heard that a large number of retail investors have recently held a large amount of Chen's capital stock. Brother Feng, isn't it you?" Lu Feng laughed, patted the ledger with his hand and said, "I only made a few money, so I went to control Chen's capital." "You think too much of me." Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 544. The fastest update to return to the latest chapter of 1990. Feng Xiao heard from his father that the matter of Chen's capital may have just emerged, and the big drama is at the back. After thinking about it, he said, "My father mentioned it?" "What did he say?" Lu Feng said with great interest. "You don't need to repeat the original words, you can briefly summarize." "Watch the play," Feng Xiao concluded. Lu Feng raised his brows. It seemed that it was the right choice for him to continue waiting. Su Yorong was very smart, and Lu Feng could indeed get a certain amount of money to help her. The problem is that a local financial circle often relies not on money, but on relationships. Mr. Chen's most powerful means is not money, let alone Chen's capital, but her connections. If no one suppresses her connections, she can mobilize funds 10 times higher than her own. Chen's capital is close to 10 billion, which is really not something ordinary people can do. Talking more to your dad recently, not only the mother is worried, but also the father. Lu Feng patted Feng Xiao on the shoulder and said, "You have grown up, you should know how to accompany an elderly person. Say how precious it is." Feng Xiao nodded heavily and said, slightly moved, "I know." After returning to the factory for a few days, Lu Feng had a meeting other than rest. At present, Jiafeng Electronics' product lineup is supported by a single VCD product. Although the rapid expansion of the VCD market has further eroded the videotape market, but piracy is still on the rise. With the launch of a new generation of TV sets, larger in size, clearer screens, and further improved display technology, VIPTA sales have further declined. It is still possible to sell it now, all relying on Lu Feng's early layout in the township market. The sales in big cities are really not good. Don't underestimate the changes in the short 3 years from 1991 to 1993. In the past 3 years, the domestic GDP has exploded. Affected by some major events in the world, the currency has depreciated rapidly, but the per capita income of both urban and rural areas has actually increased, especially in big cities. Economically, the most dangerous period has passed. Both feet are officially on the ground. Domestic industrial upgrading and inflation have led to a drop in the price of electronic products. People have money and want to buy something good. The sales volume of Wikipedia has declined, and the two products of tape recorder and radio have also been suppressed. The monthly sales of radios are only less than 30,000 units. The profit is thin and the sales volume is low. For the entire enterprise, it is better than nothing. This single product supports the entire company's product line. It is very dangerous. On the other hand, the factories in Suzhou are unable to produce at full capacity for a long time because the market demand is not high. 1 or 2 months is not a big problem. If it takes a little longer, the salary of the employees will become a burden. If there are a lot of layoffs, you don't need to ask. The next day, Huang Youwei will talk to Lu Feng. The phone was on the speakerphone. Lu Feng leaned on the chair expressionlessly, pondering. Mr. Lu, the VIPTA market is saturated at present. Even if we open up other markets, it still won't sell. Our current head product is still the Golden Leopard VCD. Zhu Lidong was also a little worried and said, there is no way to do it in the market, we can only wait for the R/U0026D company to release new products. How about the overseas market? This one needs to be laid out in advance, Lu Feng said. I talked to you about the overseas market some time ago, and you also said that we can't go out, and there are too many uncertainties in the overseas market, the procedures are very troublesome, and there are quality inspections. Zhu Lidong thought of those approval procedures. Too big. Go to the export agent. Agent? That's terrifyingly low profit. Those companies have a very high profit point. I heard that for some medium-sized enterprises, there is no profit at all, and they can't even put a brand logo on them. They can only write the goods from which country. Zhu Lidong sighed and said, just that little profit is not enough to fill the gaps in 1 year. Of course I know that the problem is the need to support workers. I can't lay off a large number of employees. Several assembly lines are not open now. The selling point is the point, and the OEM is the OEM. The key is to make the enterprise turn around. Year. Zhu Lidong is even more worried. The export of this product is very slow. It needs to pass the quality inspection of those companies first, then load the ship, and unload the goods after arriving at the place. The money goes to the agency company first, they peel off one layer, and then give the money to the production company. This set of processes is normal. After half a year, this is still a good situation. If the product does not sell well, it will be even slower. There is also a risk that the agency company runs away. There are too many agency companies running away. They all act as agents for many export companies, and the one-time payment is sometimes hundreds of millions of funds. A lot of agency companies just dump their money and go overseas, leading to this kind of agency export model, and now people are hiding. The risks are all one's own, most of the profits are taken away by the other party, and there is no harvest. Those who make such overseas orders are either trusted people, or the company can't stand it anymore. They make an order, and then take the bill to the bank to pledge, and exchange for a sum of cash. After half a year of gambling, the company does not have the money. Can also survive. Mr. Lu, if you want to do it, you can try it. I think the chances of being scammed are very high. Zhu Lidong reminded, Lenovo has been scammed before, and I almost didn't get the money back. Lu Feng doesn't know much about the current overseas export. Back then, he only heard a few words from some old business people, which was very confusing. There was a joke that the risk of finding an agency was higher than the risk of smuggling. Lu Feng knew that this was a blue ocean. In China, there was no market for Vipita, but there was a market in foreign countries. In poor places such as ASEAN and Africa, black and white TVs were all high-end products. With the upgrading of the industry, the supply of various accessories and raw materials has become very cheap. Since the beginning of this year, the cost price of Vipita 25-inch TVs can be reduced to less than 2,000 yuan. Lu Feng is still considering the pros and cons. If he goes to an export agency, there is a high probability of being scammed, but GFN Electronics must go out. The domestic market is one road, and foreign trade is the other leg, neither of which can be given up. Lu Feng thought for a while, then called Zhu Lidong again and asked him if he knew someone who was an export trade agent. When Zhu Lidong heard this, he already knew that Lu Feng was determined to do it. Zhu Lidong didn't know any agents, but he knew that as long as Lu Feng was willing to look for them, he would attend a few banquets, parties, and other messy occasions. Those people have been hanging around in this kind of situation all the year round. Lu Feng has met them before, but he just lost the business cards of these people. Lu Feng was still weighing the pros and cons when the phone on the table rang, picked up the phone and said, "Which one?" "Guess what good news I have for you." Zhang Xiaoyan's voice on the other end of the phone was a little excited. "What good news?" Lu Feng wondered. "Guess what, great news." Zhang Xiaoyan's voice was filled with joy. "Has the factory received a big order?" "No, it has nothing to do with money." "Guess." "You pregnant?" Lu Feng teased. "Congratulations, congratulations. If you're not here, who am I going to carry?" "I'm not serious when I speak, I was very happy." Oh, it's my fault." "Just kidding, tell me, what is the good news?" Lu Feng cleared his throat and asked seriously. "I went for a checkup, and my body is recovering very well. The doctor said it was incredible. It will be May soon, and it will be better after taking another month." Zhang Xiaoyan wiped her tears as she spoke. I was so happy, no one knew how much darkness she had spent by herself. At this moment, she finally saw the light, and the breath in her heart finally spit out. "Why are you crying again?" "Happy, I'm pregnant this year. I'm going to your house for the new year, sitting on your kong. I want to eat 8 hot dishes." Zhang Xiaoyan choked with pouting. Eat the full banquet, and then pull up a banner saying that you are pregnant. Advertise throughout the county, and let's advertise on TV," Lu Feng said with a smile. "Where is it like you, pregnant with a child and still on TV?" Zhang Xiaoyan laughed, and thought again. "You said, is the first child a son?" "It's just mine, don't think too much, don't be so burdened with thoughts, everything is fate," Lu Feng said with relief. Zhang Xiaoyan's words revealed a determination to give birth to a son for Lu Feng. Every generation has something deeply ingrained in every generation. Lu Feng couldn't say that she was wrong, but just said that the age, environment, and atmosphere she grew up in had penetrated into her body and mind. "Don't say Zhang Xiaoyan, are we not a product of the times?" Lu Feng was silent for a while, then said, "I'll go back tomorrow and let them buy tickets in a while. The company's affairs are almost done." "Really? Then I'll clean up the house at night. I'm busy with things in the factory during this time, and I have to teach a lot of homework. The house is a little messy." Zhang Xiaoyan is very happy and is already thinking about what to eat tomorrow. We talked a lot, basically trivial things, what happened to who and who in the factory, who was gossiping in the cosmetics city. She chatted with Lu Feng about her life alone. "I'm going to dinner, see you tomorrow." Lu Feng hung up the phone. Zhang Xiaoyan put down the phone, read the hospital checklist again, and ran upstairs like a little girl, shouting, "Duo, mommy will take you to eat your favorite KFC, let's go." "Yes. Now, I have to tell Fengxia." Lu Feng ordered someone to buy a plane ticket and sat down to eat in the dining room. Halfway through the meal, Zhang Fengxia walked in and saw that her expression was not very high. Glancing at Lu Feng, he sat down with a smile and said, "Sister Xiao Yan is recovering well, congratulations. Congratulations. It's like I'm going to be a father. Besides, I'm already a father," Lu Feng said casually while eating. "I'll leave the factory to you, I'll go back tomorrow." Recently, for a while, I plan to try overseas exports. Oh, Zhang Fengxia just said one sentence, and there was no other sound. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 545. The fastest update to return to the latest chapter of 1990. Lu Feng glanced at her sideways, and didn't ask any more questions. He was worrying about how to open the way of foreign trade. After Zhang Fengxia had eaten, she was strolling in the factory alone. The wind in the evening was very refreshing. She looked at the large poplar trees in the southernmost part of the factory. Taking a deep breath, the whole person looked a little lonely, walked towards the parking place, drove directly to the library, and asked the clerk, "Are there any books for pregnancy preparation?" "Over there," the clerk pointed to the corner inside. "Thanks." Zhang Fengxia walked over and looked at it. She bought 3 or 4 books and went back to the factory. She sat on her bed and looked at it. She picked up the phone and called Zhang Xiaoyan. "Fengxia, what's the matter?" Zhang Xiaoyan asked. "I can't find you if I'm fine." "What are you doing?" Zhang Fengxia asked. "Clean up the house, he will come back tomorrow to wash up." "I bought a few books for pregnancy preparation." "You'd better do less work, especially heavy work. You can't be tired. It's not good for your health. Also, don't touch cold water. Be more precious." Zhang Fengxia flipped through it. Said the book. "You care more than me. When I give birth, you will be able to be a godmother." Zhang Xiaoyan put her clothes into the washing machine and said with a smile, "Hurry up and find someone, they are so old. I feel that it is difficult for me to get married. Let's talk about you. It says to keep a good mood, or else you will be in good health and it will not be easy to conceive." "Not yet, I have to finish this medicine. Let me tell you, my body has recovered. I guess I won't be able to conceive in a while, but it will be a toss-up." Zhang Xiaoyan sighed. "Toss?" Zhang Fengxia laughed and asked, "Why are you tossing? Tell me." "Oh, you are not ashamed, you can always turn to this kind of problem, you are a jerk," Zhang Xiaoyan joked. "Then tell me, is it fierce or not?" Zhang Fengxia laughed as she spoke. Zhang Xiaoyan on the other end of the phone also laughed, picked up the phone and chatted in muttering, laughing from time to time, as if she had found the most interesting topic in the world. The next morning, Lu Feng got on the plane alone, chatted with Feng Xiao when he left, let him stay here for a while, and then go back to Xiangjiang. If nothing else, Lu Feng should stay in Shenzhen all the time, and will go to Xiangjiang after June. The reason why he let Feng Xiao go back was that he actually wanted to find out what Mr. Feng said. It was basically impossible to completely bring down President Chen and leave a local boss like him. When Lu Feng got out of the airport, he saw that Zhang Xiaoyan was already waiting there with a bouquet of flowers in his hand. This, she kept bouncing around, happily like a child, with a smile on her face and a hint of blush on her face. "Why did you buy me flowers?" Lu Feng looked at her holding a bouquet of flowers and teased, "Have you learned romance yet?" Eyes were constantly being cast from all around. This was the most outrageous thing Zhang Xiaoyan had ever done since she was a child. When Lu Feng said it, her face blushed, she shoved the flowers to Lu Feng, and said in a low voice, "Give it to you, take it, and tell me." Lu Feng took a look at water and asked, "Why don't you say something? Old husband and wife, what are you talking about? According to the general routine, you should hold me, Kiss me passionately, and then say loudly that you love me, Lu Feng teased. Zhang Xiaoyan's face and neck were all red when he said it. She bought the flowers, she had mustered up the courage, stretched out her hand and pulled Lu Feng, and whispered, "Come on, there are so many people. Look. My God, why is your face so red?" Lu Feng saw that her face was so red. "Oh, you," Zhang Xiaoyan couldn't hold it anymore, let go of Lu Feng's arm, trotted outside, and rushed out as if running away. Lu Feng laughed loudly, and said to the people watching the fun, "My daughter-in-law, you can't love me. She has a thin skin and bought flowers on purpose. A beautiful daughter-in-law has disadvantages, but it's boring." The men next to her all rolled their eyes. They knew that this man's daughter-in-law had a thin face, but this man's face was really thick. "Don't look at my daughter-in-law, she's pretty, but she's virtuous, and she's not squeamish at all. She is reluctant to find a nanny for my villa of 500 or 600 square meters, and she can cook good dishes, not only caring for the family, but also self-motivated. She let her run a factory with millions of dollars, and everyone at home and abroad can be busy, but there is something wrong, she loves me so much, and it gets boring every day." The people next to him couldn't listen anymore, and walked to the side one after another. What came out of Lu Feng's mouth, called people? Lu Feng saw that there were no spectators around, and strode towards the outside. A man with a backpack was standing at the exit, his face a little bad. "Boss, what's wrong with you? Didn't you smile just now?" a man asked. "I was in a good mood, but I was standing there watching the lively scene, and I was inexplicably pretended to be forced," the boss sighed, feeling that his life was not so successful. Arriving in the car, the blush on Zhang Xiaoyan's face had not faded. She looked at Lu Feng and said, "You're just embarrassing me on purpose." "Where is it? It's generous." "How wonderful!" Lu Feng tipped his head and tapped her lips. "Someone is watching." Zhang Xiaoyan became anxious. "Just look at it, go home." The car sped away in the direction of the home, and Lu Feng talked to her about the company's affairs along the way, and the two of them had a topic of conversation. When she got home, Zhang Xiaoyan started busy cooking. She was very agile and put the rough processed things into the pot. In less than half an hour, a table of dishes was ready. "The overseas trade you are talking about, I have also heard from a garment factory, our long-term cooperation, introduced by acquaintances, and many are settled in advance, such as 1 million clothes, which are directly sold to those companies, and they can be sold overseas." "How much they sell is their ability," Zhang Xiaoyan said, and put a prawn in Lu Feng's bowl. "Mr. Zhu is right, the risks are too great, and the benefits are too small. The cost of clothing is low, and the threshold for customs quality inspection and tariffs is not so high. Of course, it is easy to do it. Those companies are also willing to pay the factory to guarantee that electronic products are not good." Lu Feng was eating and said, "Many countries are very strict with electronics, including our country." "I don't know anything about electronics, do you want to meet someone?" Zhang Xiaoyan asked. "You may have to go to dinner every day recently, are you going?" Lu Feng looked at her and said, "Maybe it will also help your business. If you don't go, you'll have to drink when you go, and it's good to have a cocktail." Zhang Xiaoyan said while eating, "Feng Xia told me last night not to deal with chemicals, dyes, spices, and pigments, softeners, etc. Stay away. I've thought about it, and I'll stay at home recently." "It's not that serious." Lu Feng looked at her as if he was facing a great enemy, and said with relief, "It's better than anything else to organize your mood. Let's go to Puchuo Mountain, I heard that there are very spiritual people there, go and say goodbye." Zhang Xiaoyan seemed to be still looking for psychological support for herself. "What's the use of praying to Buddha? Do something kind." Lu Feng grabbed her hand and said, "How about we donate 10 primary schools to poor areas?" "This is quite good," Zhang Xiaoyan whispered, "it just seems to cost more than worshipping Buddha." Ha 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 ha, Lu Feng laughed and joked, look at your squeamish look, that's it, don't be too busy during this time, I'll find you some babysitters, and I'll accompany you at home too. Following you. You don't need a nanny, it's better than anything for you to be with me, Zhang Xiaoyan said shyly, it's been almost half a year this year, and the time we spend together is not enough for a month. Okay, with you, the nanny is still looking for it. After dinner, Lu Feng called Lu Cheng. First, he told him that he needed to attend some banquets. Second, it was almost mid-year. The R/U0026D company invested so much money, so he should show him something. Look, tell him by the way, help find a few nanny, salary is not a problem. In the afternoon, the two stayed at home. Zhang Xiaoyan lay lazily on the sofa after drinking the medicine, and Lu Feng was also rarely relaxing. He turned on the TV, and the two of them were watching TV with their heads leaning on their heads. Although they haven't seen each other for a long time, both of them are in high spirits, but Zhang Xiaoyan made it clear that it is absolutely impossible to drink this medicine. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, he picked up Duo from the kindergarten. The little guy was very happy to see Lu Feng. After this summer, she will be a big child in the first grade. The TV was on, and the advertisement sound inside became the background music. Lu Feng sat there with Duo doing his homework, and Zhang Xiaoyan was cooking in the kitchen. At this time, the house felt like home. He went to bed early at 9 o'clock in the evening. Lu Cheng was very attentive to what Lu Feng explained. He made a lot of calls and found a company that provided high-quality babysitters. The monthly salary for a single person was as high as 4,000 yuan. Is the most expensive babysitter. Early the next morning, after breakfast, he sent Duo to school. After Lu Feng came back, he received a call from Lu Cheng, saying that the babysitter had been arranged and would be there in a while. After complimenting him, Lu Feng hung up the phone and said to Zhang Xiaoyan, the babysitter will be here in a while, so don't pack your dishes. I have nothing to do at home. It's fun to clean up. You really let me eat and sleep and eat. Zhang Xiaoyan walked towards Lu Feng slightly coquettishly, sat next to him, and leaned her head on it. The doorbell rang. Lu Feng stood up and opened the door. There were 3 slim girls standing outside. They were all about 1.7 meters tall, with delicate looks. They seemed to be in their 24s and 50s. They had professional short skirts and high heels. Said. What are you doing? Lu Feng wondered. The 3 girls bowed in unison, and the collar of the shirt could see a different scenery, and said in unison, hello, the housekeeping nanny is at your service. Lu Feng turned his head and saw Zhang Xiaoyan standing behind him at some point. The expression on his face had nothing to do with happiness. Is this the nanny you're talking about? Zhang Xiaoyan stared at the 3 of them, then glanced down at herself, and said, I said, you've been looking for a nanny. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 546. The fastest update to return to the latest chapter of 1990. Lu Feng's expression became embarrassed. He really wanted to find a nanny. He didn't expect such a trend to appear in today's society, which was unexpected. What I want is a nanny who can do laundry, cook, and clean up the house, Lu Feng said to the 3 of them. I don't think you guys are very suitable. Hello, I'm a professional nutritionist and gourmet. I can match your nutritional balance reasonably, a girl said to Lu Feng. Hello, I'm a home sanitation expert, in terms of clothing storage, cleaning germicidal lamps. Lu Feng looked at the 3 of them. They were not 80 years old together, they were gourmets. With such a high salary in a single month, Lu Feng knew exactly what these so-called babysitters were doing. He interrupted them in a hurry, took 10 yuan from his pocket, handed it over and said, maybe it's because I didn't explain clearly to the people under my staff. The 3 hard-working people make a trip, and I will reimburse the travel expenses. After finally sending the three of them away, Lu Feng closed the door and sighed inwardly. It's not easy to be a rich man. When you go on a business trip, there are women chasing you, sitting at home, and visiting the door. Society is dangerous. Seeing that Lu Feng had sent them away, Zhang Xiaoyan sat on the sofa and said with a smile, "Why are you driving them away? The three little girls are very attractive, and they only cost 12,000 yuan a month." Down. Stay, Lu Feng stepped forward and said, crying and laughing, "If I stay, you should leave, don't make trouble, I'll look for you in the past 2 days, and find an ant who is diligent." It is false that Zhang Xiaoyan does not have a sense of crisis. Since the opening of Huaxia Cosmetics factory, she has also been exposed to a lot of business affairs, and she knows a truth. There is really no shortage of women for a person as good as Lu Feng. As long as he wants to, there are a lot of people who don't want to be named. Zhang Xiaoyan has always been under such pressure. Fortunately, her appearance and figure are not bad. In addition, Huaxia Cosmetics factory has improved now, and her body has recovered well, but she is not as depressed as before. Lu Feng hadn't been to any kind of banquet for a long time. The last time he attended a financial banquet in Xiangjiang, he didn't know how many people on the mainland wanted to have a meal with him. As Lu Cheng revealed to the public that Lu Feng wanted to attend some dinner parties recently, the invitation letter flew like a snowflake in less than a day. Some private dinner parties with less than 20 or 30 people will be rejected. Large-scale business gatherings with hundreds of people will be left behind. There are also many local chambers of commerce, industry gatherings, exchange meetings, and fellow villagers. The most ridiculous thing is that the high-end wine tasting sessions, golf technical seminars, and preliminary beauty pageants are not open to the public. Lu Feng was sitting in Liukan's office, watching this so-called beauty contest's first-level appreciation conference that is not open to the public. A manifestation of the poor assembly. Lu Cheng sat there and smiled. Some conferences were really eye-opening. He handed some organized banquet invitations to Lu Feng and said, "These dozen banquets are okay, some of them are related to the electronics industry." More. Lu Feng nodded and asked him, "I'll look for the nanny." "What are you looking for?" "Don't worry about it." "How's the development progress recently?" "Last month, we made a new breakthrough in signal analysis, and we achieved a more stable analysis based on the existing basis, which is reflected in the video, with less noise and clearer picture quality. This project is our people plus Samsung, a former electronic engineer and a cooperative R/U0026D team of Panasonic are working together. Some technical nodes have also been opened up on the display screen, and we are still working on it. Our research and development direction focuses on technical life. From the current research and development progress, we will break through the technical control of the display screen by the end of the year and add some programs to the motherboard. There is no problem. The breakthrough point of research and development is high definition, eye protection, better picture quality, and more stable signal. As far as I know, our TV products will be able to keep up next year, but it's a little hard to catch up. Some big domestic manufacturers have already spent money on LCD screens. All electronics practitioners around the world believe that LCD technology is the next technology. Reform. Lu Cheng brought a lot of drawings and folders to Lu Feng to look at. Now the global LCD screen research and development is stuck on materials, and major manufacturers are accumulating related technology patents to take the lead in the future. Of course, Lu Feng knew that LCD was a future technology, but the problem was that the implementation, production, and popularization of this technology had already happened after 2000. Lu Cheng talked a lot, and Lu Feng heard two words: give money. "How much money is left in the company's account now?" Lu Feng asked him. "There are still more than 20 million yuan, but the major investment in the early stage has been completed. The budget for this year is very good. Didn't you say that we spent 100 million yuan? Our budget is 99,990,000 yuan. Lu Cheng said, and smiled embarrassedly. You are really a person who lives, Lu Feng praised. Overseas our /U0026D bases must strengthen our /U0026D cooperation with major electronics companies. The idea of eye protection is a good idea and a good selling point. Now the market is still vacant, and LCD technology needs to keep up, but there is not that much money now. Lu Feng sorted out his thoughts and said, you can set up a project first. In the field of technology, let me tell you a standard. It's not some junk media in China who say, we are in China, how can we learn technology from the devil, what? Resist the mess, and part of it is that it is fragrant to fart abroad. The standard I give you is that their technology is better than ours and they can learn something. It doesn't matter if we are a little bit lower, and we can give you more money. As long as we have technology and ability, there are no boundaries to cooperation, and vice versa. Those who steal technology from our hands must be on guard. In Japan, the R/U0026D center should be set up, and the relationship should be established. Our people should not put their hands in too long. It is the same in any country. People are all xenophobic. When I see you as a foreigner, I will definitely not be in my heart comfortable. In terms of technology, you can find a smart and capable local person over there. If you have enough money, let him do the work, and the position will be higher. What is the regional president of the R/U0026D branch? The name is worthless. But just say hello. In terms of control, delegating power is sure, but we can't let it go. It's easy to breed corruption. We are outsiders, and we have nothing to do with local people, so we have to adopt a multi-team competition model. In Europe, the United States, Japan, and South Korea, we have set up regional R/U0026D centers. These places are places for learning, and some backward places such as India and Africa will be overseas markets and places to make money. We are now embarrassed. Where? In technology. Lu Feng looked at Liukin and said solemnly, in China, we are a second-tier brand, and we work hard to improve our product strength. It will be a matter of time before we become a first-tier brand, but internationally, it is not a matter of hard work. Learn to be a grandson, give money to others, and learn things in every way possible. Lu Chen nodded and agreed very much. I understand this. I have been traveling abroad a lot this year. Liukin, the R/U0026D company is the heart of GFN Electronics. Next year, the budget for the R/U0026D company will be higher. It's not terrible to have no money. What I am best at is making money. To put it bluntly, if I just want to be a money-making company, raise the market value, and then fool a fool to come and sell it, I am now in the top 5 among the richest people in China. Lu Cheng laughed and said, Mr. Lu, you are too polite. I always thought that you are good at doing this. If you build a company and build a market value in the world in 1 year, you say it is worth 100 million yuan. I feel that you can fool others to buy it with 200 million, not to mention the top 5, the richest man is you. But what's the point? Start a family and sell a family. In the end, you only have money left. When you only have money left, you will understand that money is not everything. Lu Feng said towards Lu Cheng, if the R/U0026D company is short of money, I will go out to make money, and I will start VCD and media companies just to make money. If you really can't do it, just do other things to make money. My hope for the R/U0026D company is to become a world-class R/U0026D group and hold the world's top technology patents. In the field of electronics, integrated circuits, computing chips, materials, information technology and other related fields, realize the cell phone technology. Lu Feng expressed his thoughts. Lu Cheng's pupils were dilated. He knew that Lu Feng had a great appetite, but research and development in so many fields was something he couldn't imagine. How much does it cost? Lu Cheng was a little shocked. As much as I need to invest, I can make GFN Electronics withstand losses for 10 years, or even longer. If external financing is not available, I will apply for subsidies like the state, and I have a trick. Lu Cheng took a deep breath, looked at Lu Feng and said, I must live up to my trust. Let's hurry up with the replacement of the Golden Leopard VCD. When the army of pirates strikes again, complete the replacement and consolidate the market, Lu Feng instructed. The two chatted a lot after finishing the matter. Lu Feng took a look at the progress of the research and development, and politely greeted the dozen or so engineers who had just joined the team. Tomorrow, I will attend the first banquet, which is a gathering of material suppliers in the industry. It may be because Lu Feng, who is not in the mountains all the year round, is coming. This gathering is particularly attractive. Zhang Xiaoyan didn't go, just asked Lu Feng to drink less. She contacted a nanny herself, an aunt in her 40s, whom she met when she was recruiting. I heard that he is also a poor man and works very quickly. Zhang Xiaoyan has always been like this, and he is more inclined to sympathize with the weak. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 547. The fastest update to return to the latest chapter of 1990. Early the next morning, a woman in her 40s stood in the living room. She was not tall and looked a little over 1.5 meters. Her face was covered with signs of erosion from wind and frost, and many white hairs could be seen on her tied hair. Next to the woman stood a girl in her 20s. Don't worry, I'll do my best. Auntie looked at Zhang Xiaoyan, not confident enough. My daughter can help me too. She has worked since she was a child. She doesn't need wages, she just eats here. What do you think? Aunt Lu, it's all right, you can help clean up at home, and I'll take you to where you live. Zhang Xiaoyan led the two towards the nanny room on the first floor. Aunt Lu worked really well, and she started to get busy after a while. She cooked a meal at noon, and it tasted very good. Lu Feng praised a few words, and Zhang Xiaoyan said on the side, the person I'm looking for is definitely no problem. Cleaning up the house, washing clothes, cooking, decoction, and all kinds of things have to be done. Zhang Xiaoyan is sometimes very tiring to clean up alone, but Aunt Lu and her daughter are very relaxed. In the afternoon, Zhang Xiaoyan went out to buy clothes. She wanted to buy some clothes for Aunt Lu and her daughter. The two of them also had a very polite meal. Lu Feng was lying in the bedroom, and Su Yurong called again. She didn't want to wait any longer. Give her more money, so she won't have a lot of dreams at night. Lu Feng was lying on the bed to persuade her, when the door was suddenly pushed open. The whole person was startled, turned his head to look at the door, found that it was the little girl, and breathed a sigh of relief. Why didn't you knock on the door? Lu Feng asked. She stood at the door, her head lowered, like a child who had done something wrong, holding the sheets and quilt in her hands, sobbing, tears streaming down her cheeks. Down. I have something to do. I won't tell you first. Relax a little bit. I'll go right after this matter is settled. After explaining a few words to Su Yurong, Lu Feng hung up the phone. He sat up from the bed, looked at her and asked, What's your name? The little girl wiped her tears with her sleeve and replied, My name is Zhou Yat. In the future, you have to knock on the door before entering the house, you know. Lu Feng looked at the sheets and quilt in her hand and said, Come on, don't cry, I didn't tell you. Lu Feng walked out of the bedroom, stopped and said, By the way, just change the sheets and quilts, don't rummage around, they are all personal belongings. Got it, Zhou Yan nodded. It can be seen that although she is 20 years old, she has never seen anything in the world. She panicked like a frightened rabbit, and went downstairs after changing her things. The house was all tidied up, and there were still a few hours before dinner. Aunt Lu noticed that her daughter's eyes were red and asked, "What's wrong?" "I was told just now," Joya said with her head lowered. "I have to learn some rules in the future. This is not our home, let alone the village. Everyone who pushes open the door of the courtyard will be smiling." This is a big family. Aunt Lu felt a little distressed about her daughter, but still said, "You are also smart and sweet." One point, rich people have bad tempers, but President Zhang is already very good. "I saw that man, I was scared," Joya lowered her head and said. When Zhang Xiaoyan came back, she found that the two were not in the living room and entered the room where they were resting. Just when she heard the sentence, she quickly asked, "What's the matter?" "Mr. Zhang is back," Aunt Lu hurriedly stood up and said, "It's all right, kid, I just didn't get used to the place, it will be fine in 2 days." "Did Lu Feng talk about you?" Zhang Xiaoyan asked Joya. "Don't be afraid of him, he's just like that." "I'll talk to you about him during dinner at night." No, Mr. Lu is very good," Aunt Lu hurriedly said. "My girl is not very good at doing things, and she is clumsy." "Don't talk about Mr. Lu. Let you go out to buy clothes, but don't go. I bought you a few suits, try the size, and return them if they don't work." Zhang Xiaoyan handed over the clothes bag in her hand. Aunt Lu and Zhang Xiaoyan naturally had a polite meal, but they changed it in the end. People rely on clothes and Buddha relies on gold clothes. This is true. Joya put on new clothes and tied her hair, adding a hint of youth, but she still likes it. "Head down." Aunt Lu quickly said thanks, seeing that it was getting late, the owner was at home, she didn't dare to be idle on the first day, and hurried to the kitchen. Zhang Xiaoyan found Lu Feng on the reclining chair in the back garden, walked over and said, "Are you yelling at a little girl?" Lu Feng turned his head and said in surprise, "No, did I complain to you? People's eyes are all red when they cry. You speak softly. When I was at this age, I just went to your house. Your mother put down the tableware and chopsticks while eating, and I didn't dare to eat it." Zhang Xiaoyan sat down and said, looking at Joya, "Sometimes it's like looking at me before. So exaggerated? It's like Mrs. Yazai." Lu Feng took a sip from the teacup on the table, and said, "I went out to a banquet at night, and I didn't eat at home. I'll go and bring Duo back. Remember, talk to others with a smile on your face, you are the boss, and you are used to the people below. You don't know how scary your face sinks," Zhang Xiaoyan ordered. "Oh, I see, I haven't been educated enough by you." Lu Feng went into the house to get the car keys. In the kitchen, Aunt Lu was busy cooking, while Joya packed the dishes and said, "So much to do." "It's normal, it's a big family." President Zhang said that he wants to make a sweet and sour fish for the child. "You kill the fish," Aunt Lu instructed. Joya raised her head and looked at this kitchen. It was bigger than her own home, and she didn't know how much more luxurious it was. There were many electrical appliances here. Even the mother, who had seen many worldly things in her heart, some electrical appliances needed to be asked by Mr. Zhang. Know how to use it? Everything here is like a dream, which makes her extra cautious, especially when facing Lu Feng. This little girl is indescribably afraid, she feels like that person is aloof, like an intern who walked into the company and met her. The senior leaders didn't dare to speak at all, something was a little wrong, except for crying, they were shivering. Lu Feng brought Duo back. The food was already on the table. The little guy was very happy when he saw someone from the family. He stared at Joya with wide eyes. "My sister, you will play with my sister in the future, okay?" Zhang Xiaoyan asked with a smile when she saw Duo. "Sister, I'll take you to eat something delicious." Duo ran towards his room, took out his snack bag, and stuffed 2 dolls in it. The atmosphere is very good. There are few children in this villa area, and Duo basically has no friends except in school. He has grown up in the past 2 years and often sits alone outside playing with toys. Sometimes he looks very lonely. Jang Xiaoyan has always felt that her life is a little vague now. Every day she opens her eyes and sees a big villa, and there are cars in and out, and all she talks about is big business. In fact, in her heart, what she was pretending was that small town. In winter, her cheeks were red and red. In summer, a group of people played by the river, in the woods, and among the sweet fields. All she sees when she goes out now is smiling faces. In this reinforced concrete city, everyone is dressed in exquisite clothes. If you enter it by mistake, it will feel like heaven and earth, but after staying for a long time, it feels unreal. Perhaps this is the reason why she brought Aunt Lu and her daughter here. You play with your sister, it's time for me to go. Lu Feng glanced at the time, picked up the car keys and prepared to go out. Don't drink, come back early. Zhang Xiaoyan stood up, took out a jacket, and handed it to Lu Feng. It's cold at night, wear it when you come back, don't catch a cold, don't fight with people. Who can I quarrel with? I'm such a kind person. Lu Feng smiled at Zhou Ya, showing his kindness, took his coat and walked out the door. In a 5-star hotel, the largest banquet hall was packed, and luxury cars were already crowded at the entrance. The original gathering of 100 people had expanded to more than 190 people because Lu Feng was coming. There are countless people who want to take advantage of the situation to build relationships and know Lu Feng. The organizer of this banquet is a company called K-Star, which was established this year. The main reason is to get to know more customers. The banquet actually attracted Lu Feng. Mr. Lu stood at the door to greet the guests. Mr. Hong came over and shook hands. Mr. Lu was a little excited. Mr. Hong was considered the #1 person in the city. People do real estate, all kinds of materials, the key is to have a wide network of people. Mr. Hong is good, you can come, it's really bright, President Lu said politely. Today is my friend Mr. Lu. If he doesn't come, I will definitely not come. Let me tell you this, Mr. Lu and I have known each other long ago. Please, please, I'll be waiting for Mr. Lu here, Mr. Lu said politely. The sky was getting dark, Lu Feng's car was parked in the parking lot, and he walked towards the hotel gate. Before he could come over, Mr. Lu trotted all the way. Mr. Lu, why didn't you drive the car over? Mr. Lu ran forward and asked with concern, I have to come over, Mr. Lu, you are really young and promising. Stop, stop, Lu Feng interrupted him and asked, which floor is it on? 7th floor, I'll take you up. Mr. Lu took out a business card from his arms, handed it over and said, we are a company that was just established this year, called Keshida, mainly for batteries and power distribution. If your factory needs it, you can contact me. For example, if the voltage is unstable, our factory needs to rush production day and night. Okay, I see. Lu Feng took the business card, put it in his pocket, and asked casually, is there an import and export agency here today? This is not very clear, because you are coming, so many people want to come. If you need this, I can help you find it, President Lu said hurriedly. If you go looking for it, will you still use him? Lu Feng doesn't know much about this, but he knows a truth. Liars are rampant these days. Don't reveal your purpose in the first place when you do anything. If you can find it, you may encounter a trap that is designed for you. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 548. The fastest update to return to the latest chapter of 1990. Lu Feng went upstairs. As soon as he entered the banquet hall, Mr. Lu raised his voice and said to the crowd, everyone, be quiet, Mr. Lu from GFN Electronics has already arrived. Everyone welcomes Mr. Lu. There was applause at the scene, and Mr. Hong walked out of the crowd with a smile on his face, and when he came up, he opened his arms, ready to hug. Mr. Lu, long time no see, I really miss you. When Lu Feng saw him coming, he didn't hear who it was for a while. He was stunned for a while before he remembered. Until now, Lu Feng still remembers that GFN Electronics was stuck on the copper raw material at that time, and Mr. Hong was still sitting on the ground and raising the price, and drawing from it. Accomplished thing. I didn't expect Mr. Hong to miss me so much. It's really hard for you. You haven't been able to sell copper raw materials recently, Lu Feng asked. Ah, Mr. Hong was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect Lu Feng to have such a small mind. It's been a long time. He still remembered, he laughed, and said, President Lu, the villa is still comfortable, I used it for you at the time. The best material, after all, is where you live. That must be done. If the villa decoration doesn't work, we will have nothing to do, right? Lu Feng said with a smile. Okay, let's not block the door, let's go in and talk. Lu Feng walked inside, and people on both sides kept saying hello. The scene was like a fan meeting. Today's banquet is mainly dominated by medium-sized enterprises. These people are probably worth 30 to 40 million yuan, and the price of VCD raw materials was previously due to piracy. Crazy production. Some of them are very difficult to do business. It is that the more parties and banquets, the more difficult it is to do business. Everyone wants to have a meal, get to know a few more bosses, and open up sales for their business. Mr. Lu, hello, my name is. Lu Feng walked all the way and collected business cards from all the way. There are various raw material suppliers, and many of them even overlap. When he walked to the front, Mr. Lu took the lead and said, Let Mr. Lu tell you a few words, okay. Okay, the scene cheered. Holding a glass of wine, Mr. Hong watched Lu Feng standing at the front. A few years ago, he would never have dreamed that the young man who went to his villa to buy a house would grow up to what he is today. Perhaps this is the miracle of Shenzhen. Lu Feng took the microphone, thought about it, and said, I received a lot of business cards just now, and I heard you say that I hope to become a supplier of GFN Electronics. It can be seen that the secondary market is very difficult now. Recently raw material prices have also plummeted. Why did the market become like this? I believe everyone knows it in their hearts. To put it simply, there is too much production, and the market expectations are too high. The short-term heat has made many people lose their heads. Fifth, alloy copper also plummeted. In the future, the raw material market, or in other words, what is the prospect of products such as rough processing of electronic products? What I want to say is that the market is overall upward, our front-end market is still developing, and the sales of electronic products are soaring every year. But why do you think business is not going well? Take a look at your peers. What was the sales volume of TV sets 3 years ago, and how many raw material suppliers were there? Demand in the terminal market has skyrocketed by 100%, and as a result, the secondary market has skyrocketed by 200%, isn't there a surplus? Plus those who smashed pots and sold iron some time ago and rushed in all the way. The market is very good and very promising. Whether you can survive it depends on you. Except for some raw material processors, those providing resin and raw copper, these companies with little technical content are just a reason. You can talk about more if you can handle more customers, you can win in the future. If it is some motherboard processing, it depends on the technology. The future market must be a market where technology is king. You have the technology and you control the most important link in the supply chain. You are the grandfather. We can't do it, just I have to find you, and the bargaining chip of the price is in your hands. The reverse is also true. GFN Electronics suppliers have always been proportional. We are a 20% self-supply system, and this proportion should increase in the future. The remaining 80%, we have signed long-term cooperation contracts with leading companies in various industries. Many bosses just told me if we can let our company join the ranks of suppliers and supply them at a very low price. What I want to tell you now is, no, you shouldn't find me, I have the one in my hand. The decision-making power is very high, you should talk to the boss of GFN Electronics subsidiary company. The same sentence, whether you saw the market dividend rushing in some time ago, or you really want to do this business, such as resin, copper, tin, plastic, etc., you need to have a lot of pressure resistance. The capital chain of the company is not large enough, and there is no stable sales channel, and it will collapse sooner or later, because these do not require technology, they only need relationships, and they have a relationship with the original place of production. This industry is destined to have a low threshold, and the relationship between people and relationships is relatively heavy, so you must be mentally prepared. If it is a PCB motherboard, high-tech alloy copper, wires, plugs, etc., with technical content, you must pay attention to technical upgrades. This is the most important part. It's easy to die because the technology is not good, but the human feelings are not so important. As long as you are good, you can get stuck in the necks of companies like us. Thank you everyone. There was applause at the scene, but everyone didn't have that many smiles on their faces. They were more concerned about Lu Feng's judgment on the future. Many of the people present today rushed in some time ago, thinking that the popularity of VCD will open up the hot market for raw materials again. Mr. Lu stepped forward to flatter him. Lu Feng was surrounded by people, clinking glasses with him. Lu Feng had attended so many banquets. Tonight is definitely the most harmonious one. He quarreled and didn't fight. Lu Feng copes with people. He used to attend dinners with Huang Youwei and President Ma, and drink with smiling faces. Now he faces all smiling faces. The world is like this. It's fragrant, no one cares how successful you are, how many dirty tricks you use, and how many people you cheat. At this moment, these people only know that Lu Feng has succeeded. Mr. Lu, hello, a man in his 30s squeezed over and saw Lu Feng's smiling face, his body slightly lowered, and his expression full of humility. He was obviously 10 years older than Lu Feng, but at the moment he looked like grandchildren. Hello. I am an export agency. I know that GFN Electronics has a very good sales volume of products. Do you have any ideas for exporting? Our company is very large and has strength in customs, quality inspection, and ports, and all procedures are complete. And we have cooperation with many trading companies around the world. The other party spoke quickly, for fear of being robbed of the conversation in the next second. Very good, are you going to cooperate directly, or go to Xiangjiang? Lu Feng asked him. The other party looked overjoyed when he heard this, and replied, we are all direct cooperation, no outsourcing. You can rest assured, we can sit down and talk. Our company is very strong, our letters of credit are revolving letters of credit. You don't worry, the credit limit is exhausted, and you can't take out the money. Let's go to the living room and talk in a while. Lu Feng said to the people around him, I'm sorry, let's go over there first and talk for a while. It seems that Lu always wants to do foreign trade. It's a little bit to open up a little market, Lu Feng said politely and walked towards the living room. At home, Duo is extraordinarily active today. There are many people in the family. For her, it is New Year's Eve. She is not doing her homework well. She was reprimanded by Zhang Xiaoyan. After 9 o'clock in the evening, Aunt Lu had already started yawning, and asked Zhang Xiaoyan, Mr. Zhang, President Lu hasn't come back yet. Aunt Lu, go to bed when you're sleepy, don't wait for him, he's busy every day, go out to the banquet. Maybe when Zhang Xiaoyan stood up and asked, if the quilt is thin, there will be thick ones under the closet. Xiao, You should rest early too. By the way, there is a bathroom in the nanny's room. Take a shower. Thank you, President John. Joya wiped herself clean after taking a bath, went into the bed, and said in surprise to Aunt Lou, "It's good for rich people, and there is a bathroom at home." Normal. The last time I went to the construction site to cook, it was Auntie Lee, the one from Jiangxi, who used to clean the houses of rich people, and there was a swimming pool in the house. Auntie Lee told me that the man was in his 50s. I'm old, but shameless. I'll find a few little girls every once in a while, put on pants, a hood, and play in the water. Joya couldn't imagine that kind of scene. It was beyond her cognition, wrapped in a quilt, lying down, feeling the soft pillow, very uncomfortable. "Mom, do you think Dad won't come?" Joya worried. "Don't worry, where is he going to find him? Our mothers stay here with peace of mind and let him suffer." Aunt Lou took off her clothes as she spoke, revealing a large bruise on her back. "Mom, your back is purple." Joya sat up and said in pain. "It's fine, it'll be fine in 2 days." "This is on the construction site, right?" Joya was full of dissatisfaction and said, "You should divorce him." "What's the matter? Apart from drinking, you beat people all day long. What nonsense are you talking about? When you get married, Mom will get out of it. Go to bed soon." Aunt Lou turned off the light as she spoke, and the mother and daughter lay down. Lu Feng went to the living room, sat down and asked, "What's your name?" "We are Guangfa Import and Export Trading Company. This is the business card." "I am the general manager, Li Guangfa," the other party said and handed over a business card. Lu Feng glanced at it, nodded and asked, "How do you charge for import and export agents like you?" "Mr. Lu, our qualifications are very comprehensive, and we have cooperative relationships with more than 30 trading companies around the world. We can act as a full-time agent. You only need to produce the goods and pull down the designated port, and the rest of the import and export process will be handled by we do it on your behalf, including finding sellers, and in terms of fees, we charge 5 to 10 points according to the authority of the entrustment." Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 549. The fastest update to return to the latest chapter of 1990. 5 to 10 o'clock, Lu Feng was frightened by the straw. "Mr. Lu, electronic products are particularly troublesome. They are not like clothing or daily necessities. It is relatively simple to pass customs and security checks, and it is easy to sell. The prices of various electronic products are different internationally. Our service is complete. Directional." Mr. Li introduced, "First of all, we need to negotiate with international buyers, push your products to the past, and determine the buyer, price, and country. We need to conduct research and judgment on the local area, especially the customs. You also know that, the customs of some countries, that is to eat people without spitting bones. Don't talk about us, pirates pass by, they all collect taxes. That is to say, you all cover the import and export of customs, shipping, trade, and docking settlement, right?" Lu Feng felt that if this is the case, 7 or 8 points are still acceptable. With so much work, it takes a lot of time and effort to get busy. That's right, we are a full-service service. You only need to focus on production, and you don't need to worry about the rest. The main reason is that we have been dealing with service trade, and some daily necessities, which are sold to European cutlery, wash basin, flower pot, etc. plates, or something, sold to the US are the flags, clothes, and national flags of the protests, but there are relatively few sold to ASEAN, mainly chemicals, such as pharmaceutical raw materials. You know, there are particularly rampant pharmaceutical piracy there. They don't need knives and forks." Lu Feng laughed. Mr. Li also laughed and said, "You can go to the company to find out. We have 3 large freighters, because we have never exported electronic items, and we still need to declare them. Our country used to import these items. So Mr. Lu is still very good, and he has started to export. Mr. Li flattered Lu Feng inside and out. Lu Feng smiled and did not speak. For him, he might think it was flattering Lu Feng, but for Lu Feng, it was a normal thing. In fact, in the late 1990s, domestic low-end TVs machines have become the mainstay of the international arena. In the next 10 years, 90% of the world's TV sets will be produced in China, and with the upgrading of the industry, more and more products will be exported, and the products will become more and more high-end. To see whether a country is developed or not is not to see how rich the country is, but to see what type of products the country exports. The least developed countries export raw materials such as ore raw materials, petroleum, wood, rubber, and other natural resources, while the middle developed countries export common industrial products, such as high-precision steel, overall household appliances, and low-end industrial machinery. The export products of developed countries are large-scale manufacturing operation platforms, such as gantry cranes, shield machines, automobiles, technical patents, and electronic core components. What the United States exports to the outside world is humming ideology. Lu Feng talked a lot with President Li, especially the current international attitude towards domestic electronic products and the tariff policies of various countries. If domestic products want to go in, it is impossible to make their own brand. If you want to go in, you have to OEM. When producing, you only need to write Made in China on it. When it comes to other people's sites, whoever buys it will put its brand on it. After chatting until after 11 o'clock in the evening, Lu Feng walked out of the living room and chatted with others for a long time. Many people knew that Jiafeng Electronics might want to go to foreign trade, and they introduced foreign trade agency companies. Some people even did not get to know, start introducing. What they thought was very simple. First, take this opportunity to get closer to the relationship, and then make some profits in foreign trade, let Lu Feng incorporate his company into the supplier framework, and finally find a foreign trade agent in the market. Do this. Lu Feng also knew that these people had a lot of fun, but he was polite and left after accepting the business cards of a few people. When I got home, it was almost 12 o'clock. The lights in the living room were on, and everyone was asleep. Lu Feng took off his coat and threw it on the sofa. Suddenly, he remembered, Su Yorong is engaged in foreign trade, isn't it? Although her foreign trade at that time was leather and smuggling was core, it did not affect her knowledge and ideas outside. Lu Feng slapped his thigh and asked all over the world, for fear of being scammed, but he has a big guy by his side, and he is a very successful big guy. He picked up the phone and called Su Yorong. Who is it? The voice on the other end of the phone was somewhat dissatisfied. It's me, Lu Feng. Didn't you say after June? What? Your old man was looking for Bangxian for fortune telling, and suddenly the day has changed. Su Yorong sat up and scratched his long hair with his hands. His popularity was not good. I'm not talking about stocks, I just want to ask about your foreign trade. I'm looking for an import and export agent. They ask me for 5 to 10 points. Also, if it is calculated like a letter of credit, is it safe? I heard that a lot of people were tricked, Lu Feng asked. Come to Xiangjiang, I'll talk to you about this. You can talk about whatever you want. Su Yorong took out a pack of cigarettes from the bedside table, lit one, and asked, Are you okay? I want to talk about this now. I told you all, after June. I don't understand what I said to you. I can't leverage Chen's capital by myself. People are all related in the country, banking, financial institutions, brokerages, etc. She can gather a lot of funds to besiege you in the short term, Lu Feng shouted at the phone. You know all this, but you still encourage me to jump into the pit? You didn't tell me about such a big risk at the beginning, you just bullied me for not understanding finance. Lu Feng, let me tell you, if I'm finished, you'll be too. Su Yorong yelled. You have nothing but this sentence, Lu Feng said solemnly, I have to wait for the time. I have told you many times. The turning point of this matter is in Mr. Feng and in Sun Hongqi, do you understand? You don't have any pressure now. The bank is calling me every day. President Chen has already started to stare. The sky above my head may collapse at any time. Lu Feng, you humming bastard. Su Yorong, it's not over yet. It's not appropriate for you to be so arguing with me, right? You encouraged the launch, Lu Feng asked back, you begged me to help you cash out. Aren't you also trying to obtain funds? Isn't it difficult for you to raise funds? It's not good for you. Are you the kind of person who can be pulled into the water by others? I'll ask you, can you? Who is it? At night, Zhang Xiaoyan's voice came from the duplex floor. Lu Feng raised her head to look. She was wearing pajamas and holding the fence with both hands. She didn't know when she was standing there, staring at Lu Feng downstairs. Why did you wake up? Lu Feng asked, taking the phone from his ear. Your voice is so loud, can I stay awake? Who is it? It made you angry in the middle of the night, Su Yorong? Isn't that service trade boss already dead? Zhang Xiaoyan asked. Just talking about the past, you go to bed first, I'll wash and sleep later. Lu Feng smiled at her and said, I'll keep my voice low on the phone. Zhang Xiaoyan and Su Yorong had only met once, but the memory was still fresh. The woman entered the house and stood in the living room staring at her. Those eyes were fierce and aggressive like a hungry prairie wolf. When Su Yorong faced her, there was only fear in her heart. What she thought at the time was that if this woman robbed her of a man, she would have no chance of winning. Zhang Xiaoyan didn't even dare to see her at that time. As for whether the current Zhang Xiaoyan dares, she still doesn't know. Then you should rest early, don't be too tired. Zhang Xiaoyan turned around and went back to the house. Lu Feng picked up the phone and said in a low voice, if you don't say anything, I'll hang up. I said that you are a big boss, so you are so afraid of your daughter-in-law. Su Yorong chuckled disdainfully, when you face me, you are so ruthless, how can you be like a sheep in front of her? I didn't even dare to take a breath just now, why should I tell you that? You bring the money first. Lu Feng didn't want to talk nonsense, so he hung up the phone. Su Yorong, who was on the other end of the phone, smashed the phone and leaned on the bedside to smoke a cigarette. She had always envied Zhang Xiaoyan. Very ordinary, but the fate is different. She is not a naturally rambunctious woman, but if she meets a man similar to Lu Feng, perhaps life will be a different scene, and she blames it all on bad luck. After Lu Feng washed up, he went into the room early. Zhang Xiaoyan didn't fall asleep. She wanted to pick up the phone on the bedside table more than once and listen to who Lu Feng was talking to through the intercom. After struggling for a long time, I still didn't pick it up. Lifting the quilt, Lu Feng crept in and leaned against her. Zhang Xiaoyan could feel the heat on his body and couldn't help leaning on her. The body temperature made a person feel at ease. You haven't slept yet, Lu Feng touched her head and whispered, stop thinking about it, go to sleep. Zhang Xiaoyan responded in a low voice, with a very steady heart. The sky was slightly bright, and someone had already woken up at a construction site. There were more than 30 migrant workers living in the dormitory made up of steel pipes, iron plates, and tarpaulins. A multi-year-old man with a dark complexion and yawning. Laozhou, your wife ran away again, the worker next to him teased at Laozhou, you better stop fighting. There are many rich people in the city, so maybe it's someone else's wife. Ha ha ha, that means his daughter-in-law can bear it. If I saw his ghostly appearance, I would not have gone with him long ago. Ha 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 ha. Go to the side, I was very handsome when I was young, why should I drink some wine? She just needs to play, and she will go to the house without playing for 3 days, and she will look for other men. Who wants her? Lao Joe cursed in his mouth, his eyes were bloodshot, and he smelled of alcohol. Don't talk too much, the team next door, the fat foreman is flirting with your wife. You can stand by the window and chat for half an hour during a meal, and maybe run into his house. Shit, that overseer wants to be his son-in-law. Ha 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 ha. There was continuous laughter in the room, and Lao Joe scolded a few words. He sat up and didn't know what he was thinking. He took the slippers on the ground and went out shirtless. He went to the female worker's house and asked a question, but was told that Aunt Lou not only did they not come back, but their luggage was not there. Lao Joe is really panicked this time.